All right, hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. I am here. Oh, there we go. I'm here with Ryan from Boulder Games. I hit OBS. Change to a different
Yep.
scene. I'm here with Ryan, who is one of the developers on Virballs, which is a game we played here several times on YouTube. And Ryan, you actually dropped into one of the chats, didn't you? Said hello a couple of times. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I think gave me some tips too, if I'm recalling
Yeah.
correctly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get a chance to chat with Ryan, guys. Verballs. So I'll just give you the brief spiel. It's a 3D platformer. Ryan, you correct me on anything if I'm wrong. 3D
Oh, sure.
platformer. For me, it gives me like, I mean, first of all, I just found it really fun. There's multiple different ways of moving your character around. The physics feels really good. It reminds me vaguely of several games. Like the character itself a bit reminds me of like Pac-Man. And then you're
Oh.
like, I mean, the game itself doesn't, it's 3D, right? But kind of reminding me a little bit of like of Pac-Man. There's also like some vibes from like Sonic the Hedgehog, because like the bad guy kind of reminds me a little bit of like Dr. Robotnik. And you're collecting, little balls of energy, which is kind of like collecting rings in Sonic. And then obviously just, all the traditional there's probably one or two others actually that I was like, oh, at certain points it reminded me of something. Ryan, could you just tell us briefly? I know we were talking, at the end of the last stream, but could you just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at Boulder Games?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Ryan. I am the lead gameplay programmer on Virballs and at Boulder Games. Uh, yeah, Virballs, labor of love, and I was like the only one you missed of the big one was Ratchet and Clank for inspirations.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, we already have our first question here, and I feel like I want to make sure that we're covering this stuff. Also, hi, Verballs. Nicole's dropping in here. That's great.
Oh, nice.
Lyriel says, "Where can I buy Fluber merch? How do you come up with this art? They're amazing, and I love them, and want them to be in every game." Also, Ryan, Ryan can't see this because I think we're just chatting. Actually, I'm sorry. I should have. I don't even know if you can see me, Ryan, but on the stream,
Oh,
Ryan, we've got the Verbals have their own, like it's you, me, and then we've got a couple of, or I'm sorry, not Verbals, a couple of Flubers in there.
oh,
So
that's
yeah,
incredible.
we got a couple of Flubers. It was requested. Um,
Oh man, I'm glad people like them.
they're really fun, and then the audio on them is great. Uh, Nicole here says, "Oh my gosh, we have so many people ask that, and we haven't thought
Yeah.
about merch yet. But most of the concept art was created by Eric Clays, our creative director. Am I saying his name
Yes.
correctly? Clay,
Yep, Eric
maybe
Clays.
Clay, director. Okay, brilliant mind behind the game. Um,
Yep.
so whenever I looked at Boulder Games, man, and this might be a little bit of a step back here. It seems
Yeah,
like you
sure.
guys games games like what I would think of are not necessarily your core business. You guys do
Yeah.
some. So what can you tell us just briefly what you guys do is like your core business?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so games is always what we want to do. But I'm sure as you review indie games and help bring light to them, it's
Yeah.
really hard to make money with indie games.
Right.
So what we usually do mostly to make money to make indie games is we do service work, and we do service work for some big parks that I can't say, and just other stuff and some stuff on our website. Like I think we've done stuff with Xbox on their game controller for a show, and some stuff that's more public. But yeah, most of the stuff we do is a lot of like service work for parks.
Like business to business type type
Yeah,
things.
lot interactives, which is kind of in the same vein of games, but not quite the true games we love.
Sure. Yeah, and I remember from your website, this is all public facing stuff, that whenever I took a look at it, basically making interactive experiences type thing. So if I went to like a
Yeah.
big expo and there was like, colored boards on the floor that you could step on and would change colors, and there was some sort of mini game with that, that's the kind of bespoke sort of stuff that you guys do a little
Yeah,
bit
exactly. Yeah,
roughly.
exactly right.
Cool. So yeah, and just guys, as we're talking about this, just so that everybody understands that this is why it's so hard, for indie games to make a living, whatever. And I think it's really cool that you guys like what you want to do is just make games. I think those interactive experiences are still really cool. I bet you guys do some awesome stuff
Oh yeah.
With that, but that is a very large corporation saying, "Hey, we want to make something a cool experience, and we have the money to do it." I think that one of the biggest problems for indie companies is getting the exposure. People even knowing
Yeah.
that a cool game exists.
Oh yeah. It's awesome. That's why it's so cool what you do. It's really so helpful and so cool.
Well, cool. That's awesome to hear. Smog City says, "What's your favorite boss battle in the game?" Oh, I've only had. I say that I want to say I've done at least 3 worlds. I
Hmm.
found the I found the Scorpion
Ooh,
boss
yeah.
to be really fun. But I haven't played all of them. So my favorite, like, I don't know if I want to say it's my favorite, but I thought it was really that right now of the ones I played. I think that was my favorite.
Oh, nice.
I heard that
Ah,
only one of you guys could defeat the last boss for a while.
yeah.
Is that still
That's
the?
me.
It's you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so we got.
I
Go ahead.
I'm the one who's responsible for making most of the bosses. And usually when you're making it in a vacuum before anyone tests it, they come out way too hard. They come
Oh,
out,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, really hard.
That's funny. I've actually noticed that with indie games, and it
Yeah.
seems to be a thing. A lot of indie developers, right? You've got a small team, not too many people, so you play test it yourself. And basically, what happens in my limited experience is that the developers themselves basically get to the point where they're like pro gamer speedrun style. Like that's where they're at. Because and
Yeah.
also they don't there's not a question about what mechanics are happening. They know
Yeah.
because they put them in the game. And so you get this situation where you're like, "Oh, is this too hard?" And I'm over here like,
Yeah.
I'm trying not to throw my controller.
Well, that's honestly even for one of the capsule bosses you fought with the legs, and we've done a bunch of gold tests where we had people, just friends and family, come in and test it, and I watched someone get stuck on those first bosses for like hours, and it's so frustrating because you're like, I can't tell them. But they're like, how do you not know this thing that I programmed? Of course you do this sequence. It's so obvious if you just know.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, really hard to make tutorials. That's apparently what those are for.
Sure. Yeah. 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 I mean, that happens so often in games where it's like you can get hung up on something that is obvious to the creator, and
Hmm.
and you feel dumb once you figure it out. But that's the whole. That's one of the harder parts of making the game is making. You don't want your audience to be like, I feel like an idiot, and then like, oh, I got it. Okay. That's not a good
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, which
Um,
hopefully we should. It should be better. We should have, and even the final boss is going through. We have me who plays games way too often, and then we have a couple testers who don't play games that often, and that's kind of our barriers. If they can't do it, then it might be a little too hard.
Okay. Yeah. Nicole here is saying, so Verbal Games, I'm sorry, Virballs game is Nicole here, guys. And she says he doesn't realize he's like some wonder kid, and the rest of us noobs aren't as good as he is. Oh, that's
I don't
funny.
see why. I don't know why not.
To get kind of into a bit about what you do, could you tell me again your titles? And I know titles in a small company, it's kind of like, whatever
Fluctuates.
you're doing whatever needs to be done, but you might have.
Yeah. Yeah, the main one I go with is lead gameplay programmer.
Okay, so what does that mean? I don't know anything
Uh,
about
sh-
games.
yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
So you hit the nail on the head where in like an indie space, I pretty much program a lot of the game, and that the thing I enjoy doing the most is gameplay, which is like making the character move fun, making enemies and bosses, project like how the weapons work, and stuff like that. And usually in a AAA space or a really large space, those each of those sections are actually broken out into different roles, like gameplay programmer. You have engine programmers that program, like straight up will make tools with Unreal Engine or Unity or whatever engine, graphics and blah 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 blah. There's a bunch. And that's gameplay is usually just focused on what I call making the game fun.
Cool. Yeah, and so yeah, it's funny. I played some games with some friends, and I have a very minimal programming background, but some of them have more. And we've literally been playing indie games. And I had a friend tell me he had me rolling. He was like, "This is what happens when you have 5 artists and 1 programmer in
Yeah.
a game. Which
Yeah.
it wasn't a complimentary thing, unfortunately, in that case.
Yeah,
But
I know exactly what you're like. It looks great and feels terrible.
yeah, yeah. And for me, it's weird for me because I appreciate the feel of a game. I don't know if you ever played Anthem, and I've told this to one of my friends who works at a very large company, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yep, but it still didn't sell, Night Haro." But Anthem, I
Yeah.
thought played so well. The movement in that so I mean, there's other problems with the game, obviously, but the movement and having the physics is just so
Oh,
nice.
well, that's why games are such a awesome medium, because they are the most complicated medium to make, and that is because even if, like, I agree, Anthem feels incredible, and it like just playing it is super fun, but there's so much it lacks in other places that
Right.
it's like you can't, it's hard to crush one aspect and not carry all the rest without it tanking the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. Nicole is introducing herself. I appreciate Nicole. Nicole, we could have had you
she's
in
awesome.
here. We could have all 3 been in here. I don't know if I'm afraid of technical difficulties right now, but Nicole, which is Verbal Games, she says I'm the community manager here. The fun time girl that will give you prizes as soon as our community gets rolling. Also, guys, there is a Discord for Virballs. You can I'll link it after the fact here, but if you Google it, you can find them on Steam. They're also Virballs also in the Epic Game Store as well, and you could find the links through there. They're small links. They're on the right in Steam. They're a little bit hard to find, but go check out the Discord, and you get to chat about the game and what have you. Another really cool thing to talk about, like indie games, guys. If you go into the Discords, you'll get to talk to some, obviously they got to make the game and that's their main thing, but they're in there. Like the developers are in there. Like when you give feedback, the person reading your feedback is one of the developers.
Yeah,
That doesn't
usually
happen.
me.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. That doesn't happen with large, giant games or what have you. So if you want to be able to give, and they can't always listen to everybody, right? Like sometimes the design goals are different than what an individual. I play games where I'm like, oh, I preferred if it was this game, and they're like, no, this is the style of game we're making, and I'm like, okay, it's not a game for me. But it's incredibly cool to not have that friction and just be able to go talk to people and also see that they're human beings, as well. Ryan's real. He's real. Lyriel says, I have tried other platformers that are so hard, I rage quit in like 10 minutes, and I didn't want to go back. And this looks fun and not frustrating. I also adore the art style. It looks so good, and the Virballs are successfully cute, but not so cute that I'm sad we're fighting them. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Nicole says, I felt the same way when I first played it. It's so stinking cute, but I don't mind mowing them down.
Well, they start to grain on you after a bit. You're like, okay, third time killing me, and it's no holds barred.
Oh man, Nicole says no. She doesn't want to be on stream. I'd rather pull out my fingernails than start a stream. Okay. Exalted chitter chat though. Okay, cool. We literally have like 2 people giving us feedback during our early access phase, and everything they asked for, they got. There you go. There you go, guys. I think am I one of those people? I don't know if I was early enough in the early access, but we'll see. I'm excited. One of the things I asked for, and I know you guys had already gotten feedback on this, was being able to see my cute character's face while playing. Is that's in there now, or is it going to be in with live?
We're gonna try. We're getting
Okay.
Yeah, we're down. So the hopeful release day is March 18th, and we should be hitting that. That's
Okay.
2 weeks.
All right.
But gosh, we hope there's some little ways you can do it with the ball right now, and like you saw, the skins will let you pause and see the front. But yeah, we've gotten that a couple times with trying to see if there's a way we can throw in a nice camera mode that lets you see the front.
Okay. Cool. One thing, and this is again going a little bit more big picture thing here, and I know that you're not the CEO of the company, so this might not be, you're not the right person to ask, but I did warn you that I was going to ask you this. So one of the things about indie games, why I'm so interested in supporting them, a lot of people just found out about Larian when they won Game of the Year last year. Larian, though, for those of us who happen to be in those kind of games, they've been making games for decades, really fun games for decades. And it's cool because these companies get incremental success and they can be bigger and bigger. And a lot of the things that I look at is like, hey, I want the next big whatever MMO, the next like I want, but I want it from. I know that indie companies are going to make the best games because they're making games for the right reason because they're nerds like us that just want to make fun games that they want to play. And so, one of the things like when you look at it, I consider it an investment in a lot of indie games. It's like, hey, if you like what these guys are doing, if you think that these people are, smart and they're also making cool games and they have good ideas that you want to see, buy the game, support them, and eventually, and the thing is, there's a bunch of different companies that are at different phases of the process, and I know it's like a 20-year investment, right? Larian took 20 years to make Baldur's Gate or more, right? So it does feel a little bit over the hill for the time. You're doing it for your children, I guess. I don't know, but for you guys, like, what was, if I know you guys want it says on your website, I know that what you guys do is like, yeah, we do a lot of business to business with other corporations because that's how you got to make money. But you also are game designers at heart. Like, what is what if you got a ton of success? What would the company, what direction would you guys go in a bit? And we're not going to hold you to anything. Again, I know you're not the CEO. Sure. Like, I don't want to get you in trouble with anybody, but just can you give me a rough idea?
Sure. Well, here's what I can say with certainty is just because, like you said, I'm not CEO. I don't know the business plans, but I know everyone at Boulder loves making games. I know maybe me the most, and a lot of us die a little bit inside when we're like, okay, we gotta do a service job to get to make games. But when we get to make games, it's everyone there's dream, right?
Yeah.
If we were to, Boulder's been around. Well, how do I say this? Boulder's been around for like 15 years, and then the two owners have had game companies before that even. So they've been trying for a while. Okay. And I think that really is it. It's kind of like if you can make money making games, then there'd be nothing better than getting to make games. And I work there, and a lot of them are my friends. So take this with a grain of salt, but I think it's true that everyone at Boulder is extremely talented, and I think like if we had the resources of large studios, we would make some great games.
Yeah, I look at Virballs and I'm like, again, it's way beyond the scope of what you guys do, and I totally get that. But I'm like, man, there could be worlds like this could be like equivalent of like some 3D Mario world where but now you got Virballs and it's a different flavor and whatever and for those who don't know, you kind of walk around, but there's another mode you can turn into where you're actually just a ball with like a little force field around you, and like that mode being like basically like I don't know, like a pinball basically. Like I could see fun game modes with that. You already have the tunnels that you made.
There's so much, and every game has this where you come. I haven't seen a game developer yet that has come to the near release with everything they wanted to put in. But you hit the nail on the head of just like you make this feature and it adds all these new things you could do with it if you just had more time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, if Virballs gets a sequel, that the ball mode is getting way more fun. I personally want to put in a grapple hook because I love grapple hooks.
That's funny. I actually was asked if you could grapple with it. So that's funny. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If I had more time, God, I would.
Hey, what's up, Midnight Aces? Is this Spore 2? They ask. Not yet. No.
That's Virballs 3.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's really cool. What are some games that you said you I think actually you mentioned a few. Like what are some of the early games that you played that just like stuck with you, or games that maybe I don't know if you ever go back to like retro style or anything?
Yeah. Super Mario 64 is a big one.
Okay.
But aside from that, as I was a huge PS2 kid, and I still have my original PS2. So Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter and Spyro and Sly Cooper, I'll live and die by.
64 was where you had like Yoshi, right? Am I thinking of the right one?
Super Mario 64 was the first 3D.
Oh, 3D. One. Oh my gosh, I used to. So as some of you guys know, I had a trailer park upbringing, and so whenever I think of Mario 64, I would play with my neighbors who had a 64. We didn't have
Oh,
one,
nice.
and they would listen to on repeat Insane Clown Posse. So there's one CD from like because we only had one CD. This is the days of CDs, and it would just listen to it. So whenever I hear Insane Clown Posse or Mario, like they're the two are completely. I'm sure just as Nintendo would love.
Yeah, it's such a good. That's a good pairing, honestly.
Oh man, yeah. So that was the like triple jump or quadruple jump up the stairways going backwards. You could glitch it
Oh
out.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're talking about the same game. All right.
Oh yeah.
I was young. I just remember playing it a lot, and I was like, I don't which Mario is which. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely
Yeah.
loved the 64. Honestly, 64 was like one of the peak for 3D. Love. One of the things I really like about Virballs when we're talking about like gameplay, you can jump and then you can long press jump to get a little bit higher and then you can double jump and you guys perfectly design the levels to where you got to do the long jump and then the double jump with with the first long jump to be able to get up to a platform. Feels
It's
incredibly satisfying.
I'm so yeah. That means a lot. It's that so there's a lot as platformers, and if you play them and you know some, there's a lot of rules you got to follow. And long and variable height jumping, which is the long jump, like you're saying, is a big one. And watching people who don't know about that standard try and use it, and then just think all the jumps are too
Uh,
short. It's like, no, you're so close. Just hold it a little longer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, yeah, Nicole's saying there's a lot of design meetings about when to push those okay. Hey Chicken, what's going on? Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah, we have especially because everyone loves games so much. There's so many there's not arguments, just deep discussions we've had about what no this would feel better. No, we should do this.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. And I mean there's so many different styles of game. Like a lot of different things can feel good. But I think that's one of the coolest things. You know, when you see developers who like really play their game and really understand like the feel and you can appreciate different styles of game like one of the games I play a lot of right now is Helldivers, and when I
Oh,
first
it's a good game.
dropped into Helldivers I was like, oh, this feels so bad. Like you can because you move so slowly and there's no jumping at all and you're like, well, how do I get over stuff? And then once you play it for a while you get so that's like an opposite extreme from like a 3D platformer where you've got a lot of mobility, you can jump and what have you, dashes, double dash, all
Oh
the
yeah.
all
And
that.
that's a lot of what a gameplay programmer usually does. Is kind of that's the where the like where's the game and what is the best control scheme for it.
I have a so this is kind of a little bit more of a technical question for you here,
Yeah.
as far as like game design, not necessarily software or whatever, but one of the things I see with a lot of indie games is the difficulty thing, and I
Hmm.
also see a lot of people when you're talking about platformers, where particularly 2D, but when you there's like a very, I guess, a core audience of like speedrunner type players
Hmm.
who really want to be able to run through. I am not one of those people, but I
Same.
often see in some of these indie, whenever I'm in the Discord, I'll give some feedback that's kind of for the every person. Like Lyria here was pointing out that when she see me play some games, that she's frustrated on my behalf because they
Hmm.
seem so hard. Going into it, how do you figure out the difficulty? And is there any tricks? Is there any like what is that process like for figuring out a
Uh
difficulty where like everybody can enjoy it or a lot of people can?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's a great question and something we had to deal with a lot. So, I mean, the base answer is you make a choice. That's a I or you have skate or you have different options. But if you're limited on time where you have to choose one base difficulty for the game, you make a choice of kind of what the minimum barrier of entry is. Um, and that was something like in Virballs we had, for example, in those capsule boss fights. Um, there's some there's kind of two there, and even among my friends who tested it, there's two great examples. People who play games a lot and they say, "Oh man, I loved how hard that was. It was a good challenge." And then you have people playing this as their first game and they're like, "Oh my god, that was so hard. I spent like 3 hours doing it." And I think it's kind of just in our case, we were like, well, this isn't necessarily a game we want to target for people who've never played games. Like it, so it assumes some minimum level of skill, but at that same time, it's not like I can never remember his name, but he made Chain Together and Get Over It. It's not one of those where it is assuming the highest level of difficulty right off the bat. So what we try and do is we try and give a pretty smooth ramp, especially like Jambito is the first world. It's very tutorial heavy, and we try and make it super easy. And then as you kind of go on, we try and just scale up that difficulty. So you at least, as you play, you learn and you get rewarded for that.
Yeah, having a smooth scaling is also really important. I've encountered games where like I've gotten to a point early on where I was like, "Holy crap, this is way too difficult."
Yeah.
And it's like this would be okay, but after I've spent several hours playing the game, not 20 minutes in. Nicole here says there was a level challenge on the first planet, second level, that I couldn't get through and spent like 30 minutes trying to cross. I eventually sent in a video and yelled, "Fix this."
Yep.
There's
Which has been Pete, like Nicole's a great play tester because she's on that lower scale of doesn't play games as hardcore as normally, and she has been able to get through a lot of the game. It's been awesome to hear feedback.
That's cool. Lyriel says, I love games. They kind of teach you to play as you go, and it's not a boring tutorial or throwing you to the wolves. This seemed like a thread the needle really well. Cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that, I don't know, in looking at this stuff, what do I know, right? I've never made a game. But it seems to me that one of the big things, too, if you are going to take the step, and I've tried to explain this to people, that, if you're going to have multiple difficulties, it's a lot more than you might think as far as like work. You've got to do things in a different way, but going in with a plan, because if you start making the game and then you decide you need to do something with the difficulty, that's like, I don't know how you do that. But if you go in with a plan of like, oh, we're going to make different varying levels of difficulty, you could make, for example, the jump. You could make just jump.
Yeah.
Jump goes higher, so you don't have to worry about long pressing and then double jumping perfectly. Maybe just jump just is higher, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Is there anything you can like? Because have you made other games? I know there's others from you guys. I don't know if you participated, or is there anything more about kind of this difficulty and like figuring out the scaling and stuff?
Sure.
That you could talk about.
Yeah. So this is my first like professional game, but I've made a lot of just personal ones and a couple that were college days and don't want to ever see again. But I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's like your planning is what helps everything. And usually when you do that's partly why we didn't do difficulty, is partly because I'm a curmudgeon about it too, is a lot of games will just change your stats for enemies and stuff. And that never feels satisfying. So usually like a minimum I like to do, especially because I like making enemies and bosses, is like usually you'll lock away different functionalities, or you'll change how the behavior actually works to do that. And if like when you have more time, it's easier because you're basically like kind of designing a boss per difficulty as well as the multiple bosses rather than just the boss. And to your point of like platforming stuff, I mean, like for the example you had for jumping and stuff, is like, well, if you change your difficulty to just change your stats for a jump or make jumps last longer or something, well, now you gotta make sure your level design matches that, so it's still like now you aren't getting hurt because your jump lasts longer. You know what I mean?
Right. And to, I just want to make this more clear because I think I understand what you mean. But when you're talking about boss design, basically what you're saying is that like, hey, if you're going to change this up, it's not simply the boss does a little bit less damage, your character does more damage or is more tanky. There are often in good boss design, I mean, depends how complex the game is, but you can easily imagine, or one can easily imagine, that there might be mechanics that are simply tricky to do, and you might have to remove them entirely for a different level of difficulty, and that might leave a gap where the boss is just standing there, for example. So that's a little bit of what you're talking about when you talk about having to change the level.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I know you said you were streaming ESO. MMO bosses are usually like the best example of that. Like, you have a lot. I know World of Warcraft has different raid difficulties. I believe ESO does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oftentimes a boss will have completely different ways that players have to handle mechanics, or they'll shorten timings for mechanics, because the difficulty necessary isn't usually like the mechanic is hard, but the orchestration of how you do those mechanics. And that's a lot. That just takes a ton of design that goes into them.
Yeah, yeah. I think with ESO, the developers have said that they will design for the hardest difficulty, and then they remove certain features and then tone down others, so that you're not dealing with all of that stuff and like the lower difficulties. Yeah. And Nicole says something I think that the team did really well is that they leapfrog the bosses. So with each boss, you learn a mechanic to help with the next boss. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's just good game design when the game teaches you, and that's one of the things too I really liked is like you kind of pop in, and it's really hard to do, and it's not something I expect an indie studio to do like I expect a AAA studio to do, but AAA quote unquote AAA studios often don't do this, but the proper way to do a tutorial is just to play the game. You should be able to play the game. Don't give me a wall of text. And I play 4X games that I love. I love Stellaris, Civ 6, 7, whatever. But don't give me a wall of text. It's like a pop-up that I got to read for 20 minutes. I love to read, but I'm here to play games at some point.
You don't want instruction manuals?
Yeah. I mean, don't do it too good of a job because part of what I do is guide. So I need I do need to be able to make content, but yeah, that's what is something that so I guess, I mean, you told us that you did a lot of you all or maybe a lot of the programming and stuff like that. So there's a lot of features that you probably came up with that are in the game, or maybe the whole team came up with them and you were just responsible for implementing. Can you tell us like one thing that you put in the game that you're really happy with?
Yeah, actually I made the bosses. I love the bosses. Eric also did a few of them. So he did like Scorpoid, he did the base one, and we've worked on them back and forth a lot. I did some of the weapons, but the thing I'm most proud of was that the rolling ball mechanic was a mechanic that no one wanted to put in because they thought it would add a bunch of scope and we wouldn't be able to do it. And I was like, it needs to be in the game. So I just put it in. I just did it, and then I was like, guys, look at it. And then a lot of our decisions are finalized by Eric because it was his idea. The game was his idea, so we want to make sure we stay true to what he wants from the game. And I was like, Eric, look at it, and he's like, yeah, that's good. So then it just stayed.
What was the mechanic?
It's the ability to actually turn into a ball and roll around.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Nicole says it was your best idea. Hi, Spread and Democracy. Yeah. Welcome. Doing good. Thanks for dropping in. We're talking about Virballs for anybody who just joined in. And Ryan here is one of the developers on Virballs. So, which we played here on stream, guys. If you're curious to check it out, it's still in early access. Coming out, you said March?
March 18th
March
is the planned release date.
Okay, cool. And I think like $20 was your price point. I think it's another game.
Oh no! I think it's $20.
$20. Okay, cool. The look. I was like, oh god, am I thinking of another game? Okay, so yeah, $20. We played it. We'll continue to play a little bit more on streams. Kind of work through the levels if you want to see what the gameplay is like, though. But it's been a lot of fun. That is really cool. That's a really cool story that you had something. They're like, I think this would be really cool. And because for me, like whenever I miss something, I pop into the ball form, and then you can get moving. The physics on it feels really good, which when I say really good, guys, there's a lot of a really good is doing a lot of work there. So the acceleration feels good, but you feel in control. And with a lot of that kind of stuff with and I'm sorry, I'm talking at you a bit. I'm talking to the audience, but Ryan's probably he knows all this stuff. One of the things with
makes feel good.
One of the things with physics is that you can make, so there's another game, an indie game that came out recently, and I played it at one of the cons. I don't remember what it was, and I won't, even if I did, I wouldn't mention it because I had a bad experience. But the
Mm.
physics on it were so touchy. It's very easy to make things too hard, and it's very easy
Oh
to make them
yeah.
too easy. There's a Goldilocks zone there where things feel good, and I really liked how in ball form, like I could kind of go crazy, but I also still had a decent amount of control with like pulling it back. And it does seem like there's some really fun features that aren't fully explored, at least in the version that I played, where like you can get some momentum going more so than in other forms. And I thought that was really, I just thought it was really fun. Like I just want to be a ball like skipping across, skipping from jump pad to jump pad over an abyss or something. Like yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
So yeah, and there are in layer levels we've tried to explore it more, and sadly it was just something we added so late that we didn't get as much as gosh I wish we could. But we've there have been some ideas originally. It was it's kind of thing. Originally, people were like, "We're not going to add it too much scope," and so I added it. And then people were like, "Oh man!" Like for example, we have tubes that launch you and carry you around, very Sonic-esque. And people were like, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's put that." And that was a group one. It's like, I guess we have to do that if we're gonna do it. And it's like, well, if we're gonna do that, we have to do a launch pad. So we have a few of them, but there's definitely a ton that, especially if we get to make a sequel, that we will hopefully explore further.
That's cool. Nicole's saying, wait until you get to VO. You shoot into tunnels and rocket out the other side. It's so fun. I'll spend a half hour just skipping tube to tube. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I think I have more questions. I'm actually having to stop myself because I want to ask questions that are I want to be like, so how many copies do you need to sell? like how do we make this happen so that you guys feel like you can make a Virballs too? But I don't know. That's not necessarily a. I don't want to put you on the spot or that's business stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I know a couple answers and things that are like my personal hope. I don't know how likely they are. They're hopeful.
Sure.
But like, yeah, I mean,
Nicole says 1 million copies.
Yeah, 1 billion
Yeah.
copies. I think is the minimum I need to retire on an island. I think. No, it's like, and there's different, like this game is fully self-funded, and a lot of games will go to publishers and indie-sized studios, even though I know technically doesn't make them indie anymore, will get publishing and at least some funding. And to fully fund a game, I mean, really takes a lot.
Well, and I also want to say, sorry, I just want to say, if you want to talk in more generalities, like we could do it because that's also really good information too, which you're kind of
Yeah.
already doing. So I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, not at all. And that's like that. Like this game also Boulder's worked on for 5 years sporadically. And that's basically been like, yeah, we have service contract, we have to do that off time, work on the game. But if we were to if we had enough funding, which I think, again, this was me doing quick math, so I don't know if it's true. It's like 70,000 was the hopes I had for copies, and that would be like to fully fund a full 2 years of development on a new game, and this game took 5 years of sporadic, which means like maybe a couple months every year you get to work on it versus if we had 2 years of nonstop development. It's just a way different kind of experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think I've seen some math. There's a few other indie developers. There's someone here on YouTube. I think that's how a lot of people, when it's just them and what have you, that's kind of how they do their own marketing and stuff like that. They like they have to pay to go to conventions and stuff like that. And when it's like a one person shop and they're doing this outside of their regular job and what have you, it's just tough. I heard someone they did some math on like what it costs to go to a con, and it ended up being like, I want to say $7,000 or something. And it was like,
that makes sense.
It was $7,000 because they stayed with family. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Well,
Oh my gosh.
and it was like, yeah, most people can't do that. And they're like, yeah, we packed up a TV and we, and equipment, and we drove, 12 hours or whatever. it's a tough business. It's a tough business.
Yeah,
So
and even at CU Boulder has a they're called the Atlas Building, which is like they have like a game, kind of like a games festival thing. And even yeah, me and another developer went there just for fun on a weekend, being like, we're gonna go show off this game, and hopefully people take it. Uh, and luckily that one was free, but a lot of them, like you said, yeah, you got to pay to
yeah.
set up and all that.
Yeah, which is understandable. It's just it makes it tough for everybody. We have some really good questions coming in. It reminded me a couple more. Lyriel asks, "Who came up with the flower slash bee weapon?" It's so fun.
I think that was probably Eric. Eric does a lot of these, just has done a lot of these in his free time, being like, because he is. I think this game is his baby, and a lot of the designs and stuff he just sketches and doodles, and he's like, oh, this would be so fun to implement.
Oh, it's really fun. So for those who haven't played the game or haven't seen it, when I played, you grab these little Virballs, and then they two of them combined determine what your weapon does, and I think it's earth and water. I'm not sure. But you can turn into you get a flower and you shoot out little bees that are tracking bees. Incredibly fun. Nicole says, "Oh my God, if we had 2 years of nonstop with this team, we could conquer the universe." That's awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
And then for an indie team, this is also from Nicole. For an indie team to go to a con, the average cost is around 30 grand. That sounds
Wow.
more reasonable to me. So this was an indie company, and they're like, "This is how much it costs us," which is what they were telling. And then they kept saying ways that they were like, I was like, most people can't do that. Like they have family that in a large city, outside of Seattle, so that they can stay with, and it's like, okay, well, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, and that's in a back corner booth that nobody sees. Yeah, my experience, just to kind of talk about this a little bit. I know it's a little bit off topic here for Ryan, but I just want to say, since it came
Fine.
up, going to cons. So I've gone to tabletop conventions, and I've gone to digital
Cool.
conventions, and the tabletop conventions are what you want, and the digital conventions, unfortunately, oh man, it's just I don't know. I mean, a lot of them are in really expensive places. I don't know if that helps. Some of the tabletop conventions are like in, Indiana. Like there's just not
Wow.
as much. It's not. That's a lot different than Seattle or or Boston or something where PAX is at. And so, anyways, you see a lot of really small creators. You see almost very few mid-level, and then you see a lot of the large companies at the convention for digital games. And I don't know what the solution is, but unfortunately, it's enough that like it wasn't worth it for me to go as someone who does YouTube who wants to cover indie games, because there simply weren't enough. Yeah, Gen Con is and it's Indiana. It's amazing. Yeah, highly recommend Gen Con.
Gen Con.
Anyways, a little bit off topic. Another
No,
thing,
that's interesting.
who came up with the Floobers? Because I think Lyriel here would really like to know. Tell us more. Tell us more about the deep lore that you guys developed around the Floobers.
I'll tell you, we do actually have we do have a whole background story for them that is not anywhere confirmed, but just kind of makes us happy to think about. So the base idea came from what Eric. He was like, well, we need aliens. It's him doing the little in like a mic to record. But we wanted, as we were going through, we were like, well, it's more fun to have a little bit of interaction. So we tried to make a couple NPCs, which led to the Floober King, which I think you'll see on. I think he's in level 3 of Jambito and a couple other places. He's the guy in the ship with the helm, with the crown and scepter.
Yeah.
Well, just because it's just kind of a goofy thing we were thinking of for the story of him, is mostly just like, well, these atoms seem to are collectible, so we have that. It's really what the Floober's craft is, the atoms, and that's why they're stored in boxes to pack up. But then Floobers exist on every single planet, which is a crazy thing for a species to do, unless they're like. So we basically been, well, it's a king, so it has to be that the species evolved to such heights that it colonized all these planets, and there's like a bunch of giant monster bones and stuff. So we like to believe that the Floobers are the reason a lot of the crazy monsters are dead. but they clearly need help. So they must have evolved past the point of needing to fight monsters to a point of now reliance. So it's kind of we have kind of a backwards story of like a kingdom that has become so self-reliant they can't save themselves.
The Fluber King is really fun, and it's really fun that he like bestows upon you gifts for rescuing the other Flubers. That's really cool. I don't know if we're set up for it. Great. Was there something, because I know you said you guys had mentioned having the latest version of the game on your local, for prep for you. Is there anything that you want? I mean, we've gotten a chance to play on stream and what have you. Is there anything though that we should, you really want to show off, or maybe just even tell us about, or anything like that?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mostly have just in case. I'm happy to show stuff that
Yeah.
isn't in early access yet. That will come out soon if people are excited to see that. Mostly I think there's just a lot of really fun planets. Vio is my favorite visually. I think people will be really excited because it's a fully different visual kind of just a visual plane than you might have seen already in some of the planets.
Cool.
Yes, the Bogarda has a lot. Yeah, really, I'm just excited for the rest of the game.
Yeah, yeah. I got to see you guys posted on your YouTube channel earlier today, I think, where we got to see some worlds that I hadn't seen before, which was cool, just like a sneak peek. So if anybody's curious about that, you can just go check it out on Virballs Games. And since they're in chat, you can probably just pop over there to the YouTube, and you can see that. Nicole says Bagata is my favorite. Slime Pirates. Lyriel says, I'm going to Gen Con for the first time this year. If you make Fluber t-shirts, I'll buy one for every day and spread the good word there.
And Nicole, you heard her. You heard him.
Okay. Nicole also said Eric does all the voices. Okay. Yeah. The Flubers sound really fun. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we'll continue. I'll probably play a couple more times on stream, so I don't think we need to pop in anything. And I think it could be a little challenging for us today with our setup, and we're doing the live stream thing, guys. Is it been Ryan? It's been good chatting. I mean, is there anything that we're missing that you need to tell us about the game? Not that you have anything, but just to make sure I'm not missing anything before we go today.
No, I don't think so. Guys, please check it out if you're willing. If you got $20 to spare and you want a good few hours of fun and hopefully more as long as you're willing to play. I think Nighthare, thanks for having me and thanks for doing this. This is like indie games are really hard to make money on, and they're where most of the art and passion that we love to see in games goes to, because it's where people have the most freedom. So please support indies and please support Virballs, and thanks.
That's awesome. Yeah. Also, guys, the cool thing about indie games is like you can go check this out and see if it's for you, right? Like you can go, right? Don't you guys have the early access on Steam right now?
Yeah.
So you can go check out Virballs and find it there. I think Nicole tried to link for us, and I think maybe YouTube grabbed it. I will let me just grab a link real quick and pop it out. Sorry. I was trying to think of a great question to ask you, honestly, to keep you talking while I typed, because I can't do two things at once. But those who watch the stream often are probably used to this from me. But guys, I do have links also in the Discord, just so everybody knows. There's a list of other games. It's in there in the That Was the Boss Discord, and you can see I have some of my thoughts, but I also have all the live streams of these indie games when I'm playing them. So you can go in there and see, again, I mean, hopefully you're relying not just on my own opinion, right? Go try things out, but you can at least hear what I have to say about it and kind of do a first pass and then decide for yourself, like, hey, do I want to, look into this more and give this another shot? And, et cetera, et cetera. So the link there is to Virballs on Steam. Should be in the chat. I think, again, YouTube might have ate the one that Nicole tried linking.
Yeah, and please check it out.
Yeah, go check it out, and you know it's free again. So you know just go check it out, and then if you like it, hopefully you know we can get a Verbal twos going here. Lyriel says, I mean, Knight is a hardcore gamer, and I am not, but we're both excited about it. It really feels for everyone. That's cool. It's cool to hear.
That means a lot.
Well, cool. Ryan, thanks again, man, for taking the time to come chat with me. Nicole,
Of
thank you.
course.
Thank you for being in chat to help out and answer questions and what have you. Guys, go check out Virballs. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one, and we'll be playing again soon. So thanks everybody for dropping by, and thanks for having me. Or thanks for joining, rather.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
me. Bye.